We've spent the last few videos looking at the outside of children's books, and we've talked about things like visual attention, processing, fluency, and visual hierarchy. But today I want to open up those children's books and take a peek inside, because once a child turns the page, there's something that they have to interact with every single time they read your book, and that is the words. So that brings me to the question that I asked a few days ago out on the socials, and it was, does font size actually matter in children's books? When you're designing a children's book, let's say for ages 4 to 8, what font size do you think is best? 12, 18, 24 font? I asked this question on the socials, and here's what you had to say about it. Now, let's look at what I actually found the research tells us. So, first, I want to say that I wasn't able to find anything that suggested that there's a magic number where science says this is the perfect font for every children's book, because reality is reading isn't that simple. A child's reading experience depends on so many different things: the font, the spacing, the contrast, the amount of text on a page, and whether or not the child is listening to the story or trying to read the story themselves. All of those factors absolutely matter. But what I did find is that research tells us that for developing readers, larger and clear font can make a really big difference in helping them read easier. The reason is because they're still learning to read and their brain is still working on recognizing letters and connecting those letters to sounds and building that automatic word recognition. If the text is too small, if it's too crowded, if it's too difficult for their brain to process, then they're spending their energy trying to figure out the words and not being able to understand and enjoy the story. But let's look at a different situation. Imagine a 4-year-old is sitting with you while you are reading the picture book together. So in this case, the child is mostly listening and enjoying the story. But the font size still matters because you need the words to be easy for your eyes to find and follow. Now let's go to another situation. Imagine a 7-year-old picks up your book and tries to read it independently. Font size becomes much more important. That 7-year-old needs the print to support their developing reading skills. The goal isn't just to make the words bigger on the page. The goal is making the reading experience feel easier for that 7-year-old. And this is where book design really becomes interesting, because as authors, we may think that if I make the font smaller, I can fit more words on the page. But the question isn't just how many words can I fit? The question is, how does the page feel to that developing reader? And this brings up some really important questions for anybody creating a children's book. Part of the process before publishing is having people read your book. Maybe that's a critique from a partner, a beta reader, an editor, or other creators. But have you ever considered asking children to read your book before it's published and give you feedback? Because they are your actual audience. Ask them questions like, was the page easy to read? Did the words feel crowded? What did you think about the font that I used on the page? And was there anything about the page that made reading harder for you? Sometimes the best feedback that we can get as children's book authors comes from the kids that the books are actually being written for. So, what did I learn? What does the science suggest? It suggests that we want text that is large enough to be comfortable, clear enough for the brain to recognize quickly, spaced in a way that doesn't overwhelm the reader. For young readers, a page with breathing room can actually invite them in. So, when you're designing your children's book, don't just think about, does this font look cute? You want to think about, is this font helping my reader's brain do the job of reading? Because every design choice that you make, from the cover to the font inside the book is sending a message to your reader. And the science behind those choices is pretty fascinating. Let me know what you think. And if you're a children's book creator, what font size did you actually use in your children's book? I'll see you next time for another children's book science question.